ways you never thought possible. Wayne advises us to forget outdated notions of retirement. He counsels us to imagine this: waking up each day with a clear mind, energy, and a renewed sense of purpose. No longer haunted by the fear of aging, you now feel empowered. Each day becomes an opportunity to create, connect, and give back. Your wisdom is your greatest asset, and you're living your most fulfilling life surrounded by love, purpose, and meaning. At 73 years old, author Wayne is living an inspired third act. A decade ago, having been a World's Fair and theme park designer, IMAX filmmaker, master yoga and meditation teacher, health advocate, international workshop leader, sculptor, and author, it all changed when the reality of aging forced him to question everything he'd ever thought about himself: health, identity, longevity, purpose, and what really matters in our later years. In 10 years of research, coaching, and soul-searching, Wayne distilled a conscious aging and operating manual for the third act. So please give a warm welcome to Wayne and Kimberly.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you all for coming out on a Sunday afternoon, beautiful afternoon. And, I was intrigued by this premise because you can't hear back there? Sorry. Okay, thank you. There we go. I was intrigued by when this proposal hit my desk. It was like, oh, I want to know all about that because here I am in my third act, so to speak, and I really wanted to see if Wayne had some insights into how I could go through that time with more wisdom and jovial attitude, etc. And I actually did. I mean, I got a lot out of this book, and that's why I tried to sell it in New York in the publishing circles for a while, and Wayne got a little impatient and said, this message needs to get out there. I'm going to self-publish, which I was blessed him and said, do it, because I felt the same way. And sometimes publishing, especially today, can take a very long time to get things done. So I'm so proud of this book because we put a lot of energy into it together, and it's nothing but really good news about getting older and how to deal with that, because we all have to deal with that if we're lucky enough to get older. So I hope that for all of you, and I hope that you come away from this talk with some sort of feeling of happiness with what you get to look forward to and how we can take this journey and profit from it. So I certainly felt that way after reading this book, and there you have it. So did you want to read something first? Is that what you want to do? He's going to read a little bit from the introduction that will give you an idea of what this book is about.
I'm going to read from a couple of parts. I'll start with one, which is sort of what got me to write the book. This book is about waking up from the illusion of immortality. It is about embracing the responsibility of conscious living and committing to an inspired third act. It is dedicated to the revolutionary idea that we can find redemption, value, and resurrection in our later years, no matter what life we have lived up until now. The basic premise is that as we age, we change. As we change, we need to acquire and develop new tools, skills, attitudes, and motivation to transform our third act into the next step in our personal journey toward authentic happiness, a sense of inner peace, and the spiritually uplifting experience of self-actualization. The idea behind the art of conscious aging and the new third act came to me as I began to confront the issues of my own senescence. I'd lived a relatively healthy life, eaten well, exercised regularly, practiced yoga, and accomplished many of my personal goals. I was the person who, when others heard my age, always said, "You look so much younger. You should write a book." Oh,
Thank you.
in fact, I was so healthy I hadn't been to the doctor more than once in 20 or 25 years. Then 65 arrived. A random age, but it was the one that tipped the scales. When my first physical issues surfaced, though they were minor, they came in numbers, and they became consistent. It was also the first time I began to hear a voice inside reminding me unceasingly that I had so many things left to do and accomplish, that I was, much to my surprise, not going to live forever. And, most frighteningly, that I was mentally, emotionally, and financially unprepared for what was coming. I also found myself flirting with a low-grade depression that I couldn't identify and sought professional help for. Moreover, my parents died, my son and daughter-in-law and 3 granddaughters moved away, leaving me feeling like an orphan. I didn't realize the full significance of what was happening, but I now know it was my first real confrontation with grieving the loss of my youth, facing a world of shrinking possibilities, and the M word, mortality. Nothing in my life had prepared me to face these feelings, which apparently had been waiting in the wings for the day I realized that body parts, which had never complained before, had their own expiration dates. I was 15 years from turning 80. I was confused, depressed, and overwhelmed by what I felt was the approaching end. I've since come to understand I was facing a natural, though overlooked, rite of passage, what I call the third act identity crisis.
I think some of us in this room have had those similar feelings, so I think they can relate. So can you tell us what is conscious aging? What does that mean to people? What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm somebody who pretty much had thought that I'd lived a pretty conscious life up until that time, and I'd been a meditator, I'd taught yoga, I'd taken trips to India, I'd gone through various trainings of, self-knowledge and stuff like that. And it wasn't until something inside of me got kind of shattered that really made me take a deeper look. And so the idea behind conscious aging is, it's a couple-fold, but I want to say that, we think of aging as this, especially when we hit a certain age, we think there's a lot less years in front of us than behind us. That things are only going to get worse. My body's going to keep failing. Various things like that. And I had to take a look and say how I was going to deal with that stuff. What was the right way to adjust my whole thinking towards this idea that had never ever occurred to me. We all know that we're going to die, but it ain't real till it's real. And some people, get the gift of something happening in their 20s or 30s, and maybe that gift stays with them. Most of us keep putting it aside, until you can't face it, until you can't avoid it any longer. So conscious aging is choosing to live the life that's in front of you. And since everything's changed, you can't measure it by anything you've done. So it requires another level of consciousness than you've ever used before. One of the things I talk about in the book is this idea that when you're young, everything's negotiable. You want to stay out all night, and then you have to deliver, your big ad campaign on Madison Avenue? No problem. You want to eat French fries for a week? No problem. Whatever you want to do, you can get away with. If I don't go to sleep before 10:15, I only need 6.5 or 7 hours of sleep. But if I get them after midnight, 9 won't do it for me. That feedback system, I didn't have that before. That feedback system is a direct result of the age that I am now. And so what I'm saying is that my age has actually become something that's helped make me become more mindful. And I'm sure you've all experienced that. There's an immediate feedback system. I call it, what's the price of admission? If I'm going to do something, I have to ask myself, what's the price of admission? Am I going to